Um, so we could just go ahead and start on chapter 4. Well, I'll just start, I guess, with one of the first things that I noticed in chapter 4 that I loved. Um, the first thing that caught my eye was on page 46. At the very top of the page, it talked about find something to appreciate, share it with them, and they will appreciate working for you. And so that made me think, like, it's hard sometimes, especially like in relationships, to seek the good in situations. But it is very important to seek the good and to share the love and to try to find um, something unique about everyone, because everyone does have something unique about them. And so finding that uniqueness and showing how it's important in the business that we do will help those people around us. And I wrote down in this chapter 3 times, positivity will lead positivity. And I saw that on page 46, and then I saw it on page, where else did I write it? On page 50, when it talked about how people want to work for leaders who fire them up, not those who put out their fire. And then I wrote it one more time on page 52 at the very end, when it said, therefore, I choose to think positively, practice right behavior towards others, and follow the golden rule. I feel like for chapter 4, that's what I really got out of it, was positivity is going to lead us in the way that we want to go. And also in personal lives, it's going to help us. What's something y'all saw in chapter 4 that you liked?
I love
Um,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, go.
I love on page 50, where it says exceptional leaders do two things. They develop other leaders and they work themselves out of a job. Now, I mean, obviously, we don't work ourselves out of a job, but we raise up leaders to get to the point where we are so that we can go on to the next level. So, I mean, like, obviously, passing the baton to let people on our team take on certain responsibilities so that they can teach their team to do the same thing. So that really stuck out to me. And I think that overall, like, our diamond team on down is really good about doing that. So it's a good example for us.
I agree. Justine, what were you going to say?
The first thing that caught my eye was on page 44, talking about the married couple and how he had the words written on his watch of say something nice to Mary Lou. Like, I don't know why that stuck out, but just it kind of goes along with that positivity. Like, if you can find something to say something nice about somebody, they're going to remember that. And so just building those relationships and staying positive with everybody.
Like that saying that we were all told when we were growing up, when we have people who are being mean to us or people who are just not being fun to be around, that we kill them with kindness. It's a positivity thing. You always are positive, no matter how they treat you, you're positive to them. And so that's when I read that old couple part, that made me think of that, because I actually told Reagan, I was like, you should get a watch and you should put on there, say something nice to Shelby Randle. I also saw on page 51, I loved this part. It was the recipe for retention, and numbers 1, 2, 3, and 6 are the ones that like really stood out to me, because it was taking something that could have been a negative and he turned it into a positive. And like when someone quits your team, instead of being mad at that person of like, why did they do that to me? Like, that just ruins everything for me. Instead of thinking it that way, he thought of it as, oh, it's going to help me grow. I'm going to ask them, what is it that maybe you didn't like about my leadership, or what is it that made you want to stop? And instead of taking it personally, he is trying to grow from it and know that he's going to be a better person because of it. And so I really liked that. And I thought that I wrote a note down here. He doesn't find value or have any desire to end things on bad terms. He doesn't desire any negativity or anything like that because he doesn't think it's the end. Like it's not always going to be the end. Like those people might come back around and he wants to be available to them. And if he ends on a bad note, then they're never going to want to come back to you. And so that's another thing of positivity and always just being someone that shines positivity because you never know who's going to come back or who's watching. But I really love that.
Yeah.
Well, and that part
Go
really
ahead.
stuck with me because I had to kind of swallow my pride, and in the spring I did a lot of, hey, I'm so sorry, I haven't been there for you, to all my people that had their subs off, and just trying to build that relationship back of, hey, what did I do wrong? What did I not help with or whatever? And a lot of them were just, it made me feel better, and gave me more confidence, because it wasn't necessarily something that it wasn't how I handled it, but it was more of like, it's not the right time, or this product, I didn't get the results that I thought. And so my mind shifted to, okay, if it's not the right time, that's great. Still gonna love on them. We'll talk about it another time. If it was a product situation, then I dug into figuring out why that product didn't work for them or what other products would. And so that helped me grow quite a bit.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to ask that question because you don't want someone to come back and say something that might hurt your feelings or might make you seem in a negative way. But sometimes he even said that, I forgot what chapter it was in, but he even said, he was like, sometimes some of the things that I don't want to hear are the things that I actually need to hear. And I thought that was really, really good. Did y'all have anything else in chapter 4 that really
Yeah, I
stuck out
think
to you?
one thing around that is that, he points out the fact that there's going to be emotion around that, but it's not responding with the emotion that's important. Because, we invest a lot of ourselves and we put ourselves out there and we become very vulnerable. And, when people throw it back, or what it feels like is throwing it back and rejecting it, it stings and it hurts. But I think when we can truly get to the place where we can hear those things, take the, disappointment and the emotion and put that aside for a moment and then really examine what it is that we need to learn out of that, good, bad, or indifferent, that's where the growth happens. And this is applicable to so many more walks of life than just this business. And I was thinking about just like our Christian walk is like, what we do is a witness and example of Christ, and we have this platform to really impact people on so many different levels, and so I think how we respond to situations and how we respond to hurts and, letdowns and all of that is going to dictate how people respond to us when we approach them about the business and when we, whether it's products or getting them to join us. But one of those points that he made was people quit people because they deem them as untrustworthy. And so like, it made me really examine, like, what am I putting out there? Like, what am I posting? What am I putting things out there that communicate that I am trustworthy? And so like, I have to check myself and make sure that I am not reactive, because I think when we are reactive about situations, it breeds untrustworthiness because people don't want to be caught in a storm of emotion from you. You know what I mean? And so it just really, that hit me just on a lot of levels. So it was a huge takeaway.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I have y'all know Facebook memories that pop up every now and then, and you see the posts that you posted like when you were like in high school or junior high or something. Those pop up and it is embarrassing, some of the stuff that I posted out there. And I'm like, why did I do that? I don't understand what I was doing.
You're like,
But that honestly,
delete.
yes, I'm like, oh my gosh. But I know that had nothing to do with Plexus, but whenever I was reading that, I instantly thought of that and I was like, what we post is out there. Like it's there and it's not going away. And those memories that pop up just remind me of it all the time. And I'm like, you just have to, when he was saying like, just be aware and lead people in positivity, I was like, I wish my memories would pop up like that because I did not used to do that. And I definitely have learned the difference between those two just through growing. And then whenever I read that, I was like, that's exactly what I thought about the other day whenever I read my last little Facebook memory thing back in 2012 or whatever it was.
Yeah, because really the reality is that we have people that we're already leading that aren't even on our team yet because they're seeing our posts, they're seeing our things, and they're already developing an opinion of what kind of leader we are, what kind of person we are, how we're going to take care of them, just judging off of what we post, And I mean, that's huge when you think of it in terms of we're already leading them and they don't even know it. That should be a wake-up call to us as well, So anyway.
Yes.
I completely agree. Anything else with chapter 4? Are y'all ready to move on to chapter 5?
I don't have anything for chapter 4, but I was just to say I had never really thought about that. Like we're leading them before we're leading them. Like they are watching what we do. It's kind of like that principle where it's like people are always watching no matter what you're doing. It applies exactly to this. So thank you for saying that because I had never really thought about that.
Because I highlighted or underlined something on 46. It said one of the ways trust is developed is through consistency in behavior. And so that I feel like that goes along with that of we're already leading and building that trust in some of our future team members. So
Kind of wild to think about, to be honest.
no.
Okay, moving on to chapter 5. One of the first things that popped out to me was on page 56. It's like middle bottom of the page. It says, when we hear without really listening, our leadership is bound to suffer, and so will our followers. That's why my advice to leaders is to listen, learn, and then lead. And that stuck out to me because growing up, I was told that a lot because I like talked all the time. And so my parents would say like, Shelby, like, listen, like, why aren't you listening? And so growing up, knowing that I was told that a lot, I've learned to listen more. And I was thinking of that in Plexus, like when we start conversations with people, I forgot who posted it. I think it was somebody in the cruise chat, but they posted a really good combo flow. And it was asking really good questions. And then it was talking about how you get to the bottom of what they're actually dealing with and ask them and talk to them about it. And like relate with them and connect with them before you go into you telling all and like spitting out all the facts about everything. And so, whenever I read that, I was like, that's spot on with what we do daily because our conversations should be like that. They should be us listening to people and listening to their symptoms and listening to how they're feeling and what they're dealing with before we just spit like Plexus all over them. And so I really liked that part. And then I thought the part on 57 at the top of the page was crazy, that it was talking about like half your day, 4 hours is listening, then you hear 2 hours of that, and then you actually listen to an hour of that. You understand only 30 minutes of it, you believe only 15 minutes of it, and then you remember less than 8 minutes of it. And I'm like, that is a lot of like wasted time of not listening. And it's just crazy to think about because I mean, that's facts. And so that was an eye-opening part to me for sure.
Mhm.
That made me be like, dang, I'm not ever gonna learn anything in all these lectures I'm sitting through.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Uh, I also thought at the bottom of page 57, the very last sentence, it says, to be worthy of responsibility of leadership, a person must have insight into the human heart. And that made me think of, instead of treating these people that we're talking to as just a number that's going to give us the points we want, we have to treat them as humans because they're humans. And the whole point of this is to help them. And so I know I've gotten caught up in, oh, I want to get this. I want to get this so bad. Like I need this. I need this. But really and truly, we just need to treat them like humans. And that's also going to give them the trust and respect that they're gaining from us as well.
I feel like this is an area I'm really bad at. So I apologize if we've ever been on a coaching call and I talked way too much. And I know that, all of us have good intentions. Our heart is to help. And sometimes it's, you're more help to really listen and really. So my goal is to listen more, take notes more, and then strategize later. Call myself.
She just spits these like facts all the time and just gives us all this like good like words that I want to just record her every time she talks. That's what I feel like. So I can just re-listen to it over and over again.
That, like what you said, Mama, I think a lot of times I catch myself doing this is like, I'll be listening to someone talking to me and I'm already trying to think of the most adequate or educated way to respond to them. And I miss the last half of what they're saying. Or we're talking about something on a call and it gives me an idea. And I'm like, oh, how can I post this and it look cute? Or how can I post this and it target these people? And I totally miss the last half of what they're trying to teach me because I'm already strategizing. So that is an area where I need to grow, I think.
Yeah, I think some people are just wired that way, especially like you and me, Kaylee. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but we're very type A personality. And so it's just like a lot of action and a lot of doing. And, it's just kind of in our nature to, just be proactive with those things. And so I've got to do better. So I even wrote down in my book that to be better about, like, if something like that comes across my mind, just to, even if it's just write down one word to trigger my memory afterwards, then I can tackle some of those things. And obviously when you're in conversation with somebody, you do have to have some back and forth, but I think it's just knowing when to have your input and when to just zip it and listen. So I'm zipping it now.
Please don't. I know we can probably go on off of all that. We can probably all think of someone in our life that like we thought they were just like slow to respond to us, but really they were probably sitting there thinking about like what they wanted to say before ever saying it. And it makes me respect them more because I'm like, I should have been doing that. When I was waiting for your response, you're actually sitting there thinking of the best way to respond to it instead of just blabbing off all these different words that wouldn't have helped me in any way. And so I want to be more like that kind of person. I also liked the part on page 58 at the very top. It said, leaders touch a heart before they ask for a hand. And that just kind of sent me right back to like conversations and our cold messages. Like instead of just instantly just sending something of like, hey, I want you to try this right now. Like actually getting into a conversation flow and showing that you care about them before offering them to buy something from you. And so I thought that was a really good quote. And then the bottom of page 58, there's two little parts that I put stars next to in it. The first part says, it is no accident that we have one mouth and two ears. When we fail to listen, we shut off much of our learning potential. And I remind myself every morning, nothing I say this day will teach me anything. So if I'm going to learn, I must do it by listening. And I thought that was so good because, I mean, God has plans for all of it. There's a reason he gave us one mouth and 2 ears, because he wants us to listen more instead of speak. But the fact that he said, I remind myself every morning, nothing I say this day will teach me anything. I already know what I want to say because I already know it. But listening to others is going to teach me more than me just spitting out my facts. And so you're wanting to listen more than talk because you're going to learn that way.
Yeah, it's cool too how on page 61, he ties it back into the trustworthy thing, you know, where like chapter 4, it was talking about being a trustworthy leader and, you know, so that you don't lose people, and really listening and like making changes based on what people are actually saying builds trustworthiness among your team.
Mm-hmm.
And then on 62, it says, when team members no longer believe that their leaders are listening to them, they start looking for someone who will. And I have so been in that place and don't want to be that kind of leader. So if I get that way, tell me. I won't get mad.
I also liked on page 59, at the bottom, it says, it starts with a good understanding of people, and it also means being secure enough to ask for honest communication from others and not to become defensive when receiving it. To be an effective leader, you need to let others tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. And I liked that because when someone gives you like constructive criticism, it can be hard because it kind of makes you like put your guard up. But if we're wanting to grow, and I have to tell myself this all the time, if I'm wanting to grow, then I have to take that constructive criticism and I have to apply it to my life because they're seeing it through their eyes. And they're going to see a lot more through their eyes than me seeing it through my eyes because my eyes have different guards up. And so growing up, I think about like in sports, when someone like a coach tells you to do something or tells you to do this instead, or you can improve your dribbling skills if you just do this, or if you practice this, or if you shoot this many free throws, you can improve, or if you practice like blah, 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 all these different things. Sometimes, like whenever you're young, you kind of take that in a different way of like, oh, I'm just not good at that. That's why he told me that. But in reality, he's just trying to help you grow, or she's just trying to help you grow. And that can apply like in adult life too. If there's, for instance, with me, if there's something that I ever do that any of y'all see that you can be like, hey, let's work on this. Or like, hey, you could do this, or maybe try this. I'm hoping that I can take that in a way of not feeling like defensive against it. Instead of, I want to take it in a way of, oh, they are trying to help me and they're trying to help me grow and get me where I want to be eventually. And he even talked about that in one spot of like, take it in, soak it in, think about who's telling you this, think about what's the point of them telling you this, what are they trying to get across to you, and then apply it, but apply it in the positive direction in a positive way.
And I think, Amy, you do a good job of that, or at least for me. Because in my school world, my students know that I don't just give them the answer. I kind of show them a little bit of tough love, as I call it, and they know it. I tell them, hey, this is a little tough love. You're gonna have to figure this out. And Amy, I feel like you've done that for me. You've, like, if I have a question, you're always like, well, did you check here or did you check here? And you don't just give that to me. You make me go look for it. Which of course helps me learn and go, oh yeah, I should have done that, or I've got these other resources, and just making myself kind of study and figure that out for myself, instead of just giving me the answer and relying on you all the time.
Yeah, you've done that with me too. So I conclude with what she said.
Y'all are sweet. Well, that's how that's how I was done too. And when you have a team that is working, and you can't be everybody's resource, and so you get, it teaches you to teach your team. And so I'm grateful that you guys take it that way, as helping you learn the resources instead of just leaving you to yourself, to figure it out. Because obviously you work people into that. You are there for them in the beginning because they need to feel confident and they need to feel comfortable, but then you got to wean them off of that. So I appreciate y'all seeing it that way. But one thing that stood out to me was on 66, where he says, if you want to be a leader, you need to get used to criticism, because whether you fail or succeed, you will be criticized. And I think really the failure or success comes from how we respond to the criticism. Because I think if you take the criticism and you allow yourself to grow from it, you're going to succeed. I mean, that's a win. But if you take the criticism and you let it beat you down and you quit and you don't grow from it, that's the failure.
Honestly, I saw that this summer, is after sending those messages of, hey, what was it? How can I grow? That type of stuff. I was able to find the customer care day-to-day type situation, my little system there, that has really been able to help keep some of my people. So it's there. You just have to find it. Find the success instead of focusing on the failures.
I love that. Find the success instead of focusing on the failures. I think that's really good. Really, really good.
And I think we also have to realize too, that if somebody, especially somebody on our team, criticizes us, it's done from a place of wanting to see you succeed. It's not done out of a place of ugliness or trying to put you down or put you in your place or elevate themselves. I mean, obviously there's people that do that stuff, but if they're on this team, we want to see you win. It's coming from a place of love and wanting to help you grow. So I think if we will also look at criticism in that light, it will help us put the hurt and the discomfort aside,
Did y'all see anything else in chapter 5?
Oh, sorry. I did that in chapter 6. My bad.
I don't know. We can move on to chapter 6. Chapter 6 was my favorite. It was so good. Look at my last page. There was so many highlights. It was so good. The first thing that stood out to me in chapter 6, we've kind of already talked about it, but it was on page 66, and it was saying, like, criticism, like you said, Amy, is going to come, and if you receive it with grace and learn from it, you will benefit. But it's how you respond. And I forgot what page it's on, but let me find it real quick. I'm going to come across, oh, there it is, page 72, where it was talking about constructive criticism is always easier to accept, but even destructive criticism needs to be mined for truth. Because even if, like, it's coming from a bad place and, like, people are saying it just to get at us, there might be some minute little truth in there that you have to think about and, like, soak it in, and, like, am I doing what she's saying or he's saying? Is there any part of me that's coming across in that way? Because if there is, you want to change it, because you don't want more and more people to come and tell you that you're doing those things. And so any type of criticism, I feel like, is really important, just to let it soak in and you sit there and think on it for a little bit. And am I doing it? Is there a way I can change it and be better? there was another spot on 68 where it said criticism is something you can avoid easily by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. And so if you don't want to do anything and you're not have any plans of doing anything in your life, then you won't ever be criticized. But those of us that want to do something in our life and live and breathe, you're going to be criticized at some point in your life. And it's just how you deal with it.
Yeah, I think too, one of the things that stuck out to me in this chapter was really knowing yourself and self-examination. And I think when you can really examine and have a realistic view, like he's talking about on 69, having a realistic view of yourself, that lays the foundation for you to handle criticism successfully. But then when you flip over to page 74, he says, being who you really are is the first step in becoming better than you are. So yeah, there's going to be things about us that we recognize that we don't love, and other people are going to point those things out. But, you know, we can either take it and go, oh, well, nobody likes me, and therefore I should not do this. I mean, that's not realistic. But if you can go, yeah, you know what, I am really bad about being pushy or being too wordy or talking too much or whatever those things are. Okay, so how can I fix that? What is something that I can do to know when to be that way and when not to? And he's not saying change who you are, but learn how to be who you are and become better at being who you are. So, you know, it just hurts to hear things about yourself, you know, but if you know who you are, you don't have to take it in a way that that it's an attack, you know?
And it makes you like, if you think about it as if someone is coming at you saying something that hurts your feelings or says something that kind of puts you in your place a little bit, if you come back at them and like say, oh yeah, I know, I thought of that the other day, I need to work on that, it's going to shut them up, honestly, because they're going to be like, whoa, I didn't expect that. I expected you to be mad, or I expected you to be like upset that I said that to you. But if you come at them back in a way of like loving and kindness and like, oh yeah, I know, I need to work on that, I'm actually working on that, thank you for telling me and reminding me to work on that today. But like, it's just, if you come at them in a different way, it's going to kind of catch them off guard. I loved the part, this is my little part of the book that's like super highlighted, but 74 and 75, when it said, if you worry too much about what other people think of you, it's because you have more confidence in their opinion than you have in your own. And I was like, boom, mind blown. That all these people, like I mean, that's something I struggled with for sure. And I mean, I still struggle with it sometimes. But like thinking like, what are other people thinking of me? Or are they gonna make fun of me for saying that or doing that? Are they gonna talk bad about me behind my back? But in reality, all of those thoughts that I put in my brain about that is just wasted space, because that's just giving them the power. And that's also me trusting what they say about me instead of knowing who I am and knowing that I'm coming from a good place. And so when I read that, I was like, that is a good little quote right there.
Yeah, I think it's also a wake-up call too. And whenever I think those things, it makes me stop and go, well, the only reason I think people are saying that about me is because maybe I've said that about people, you know, and maybe I need to watch what I'm saying, what I'm thinking, how I'm handling situations, because if I'm worried people are doing that about me, I better by God not be doing it, you know. And 90% of the time people aren't really thinking those things. And if they are, who freaking cares? They're not paying your bills, you know?
Yep. And he even said that. He said, stop focusing on yourself. When we were growing up, a lot of us spent a good deal of time worrying about how the world saw us. Now that I'm over 70, I realize the world really was never paying much attention. And I'm like, that's so good. It's so true. Because there's all these times of, I think people are talking about me, or I think people are saying this, I think people are saying that. But in reality, they haven't even thought about you once. And so we're a lot harder on ourselves than everybody else is. And I loved this part of the chapter. I thought it was so good.
That kind of ties in. One part I've highlighted is secure people forget about themselves so they can focus on others. That's kind of like once you get past that point of realizing, like, first of all, I don't really care what you think. Second of all, you're probably not even thinking about me anyways. I'm able to be confident in what I do and then also appreciate what others are doing without comparing myself to them or comparing how I do my business to, theirs or whatever. Because I'm confident in what I'm doing.
At the top of page 76, that quote, it said, by your own soul, learn to live. And if men thwart you, take no heed. If men hate you, have no care. Sing your song, dream your dream, hope your hope, and pray your prayer. I love that quote. It's just a good reminder of like what we've been talking about. Like, don't let others' actions mess with you. You have no worries with that. All you should be worrying about is what you do and how you lead and how you lead your family, how you lead your friends, how you lead your business. That should be the most important thing to you. It shouldn't be what Joe down the block said. And then my favorite part of this chapter was the very end. It said, well, first off, how it talked about those who can laugh at themselves never cease to be entertained. I love those people. Like when you just laugh at yourself all the time and you're just a happy-go-lucky positive and just make fun of yourself, but in a joking way. Like I love those people and they're so much fun to be around. I mean, my husband's told me multiple times that like I don't have like a serious bone in my body. And I'm like, I do though, but also I like to joke around a lot. But it's just something that I feel like makes people feel better whenever you yourself can laugh at yourself and just make things a little bit more fun. But my favorite part, what I was saying, was the part where it said, God will help you be all you can be, but he will never let you be successful at becoming someone else. Because he made you unique. He made you exactly how he wanted to make you. He made you with a purpose, and that purpose is nobody else's but your own. And so I loved that. And that was my favorite part of these, every chapter we've read so far. That was my favorite, just because it's so true. He made you exactly who he made you for a purpose and a reason. And you bring something to the table that nobody else does.
I think that's so huge to remember in this network marketing business, because I think the tendency, especially for women, is to compare ourselves to other people's journey. And it's like, oh, well, I've been doing this for 6 months and she went ruby. Why am I still stuck at gold? Or, whatever it is. And, instead of comparing and going, well, why did she get there faster? What am I doing wrong? It's important to look at those things and go, okay, what things can I implement but still be myself? Because like for me, posting is something I'm insecure in, and I see all of y'all's posts and I'm like, dang it, I wish I could do that, but I got to realize that whenever I post, I have to post like me, not like Shelby, not like Kaylee, not like Justine. Like I've got to be authentic to me. And so I have really had to like slap myself around from just copy and pasting. There's one girl on our team. She's a Ruby, or I think she's a senior Ruby. And she kind of got upset the other day. Not upset like I don't want people copying and pasting. Like she was just saying like, hey, I made this post and I spent 3 days like really working hard on this post. And she said, and I said some things in there that were very vulnerable, because I know that my customers are going to see it. And I don't want people to think that I just post about trips and money, because like, that's all I see out of this business. And she was like, and now like all these people are just copying and pasting and posting my post. And she's like, I don't want my customers to see it and think that it was impersonal. And man, it was kind of like a slap in the face to me, because I was like, okay, I have to make sure, like, use people's stuff for inspiration, but make sure that I am not just copying and pasting, because I want people to see what I post as authentic to me. And two, I don't want to post something that could hurt somebody else's business. So I also try to make sure if I repost something, it's not somebody's post that like I have a lot of friends in common, because I don't want to put my sideline teammate in that position. So I like, it was a wake up call to me, like, to just like quit worrying about it and just be yourself. Just be yourself in the posting. If you suck at it, fine, grow in that area, but just be yourself, because your people know. So I'm working on it, y'all. Thank y'all for the inspiration, because y'all really do inspire me in your posting. But anyway, I just thought I'd pass that along to y'all.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, because I actually I have a friend in Plexus that her leader mentioned that, and mentioned about how sometimes posts take people a long time, just like you said, to like put together. And if you do have a lot of friends with people, they're seeing it multiple times. And Amanda, we've talked about this too, because we've done
have.
the same things. And so it kind of hit me too, like, oh, I have done that. And I mean, it makes me like think about it differently, because what if I was that person that wrote this post that like had so much emotion behind it and so much like meaning and personal, like, to me, and then I just see like hundreds of people just start posting it everywhere. It makes it feel like it's like not as personal to me anymore. And so whenever I read that message and she was telling me about it, I was like, that makes sense. Like, I totally get that. And I've definitely done that. And so that's something I'm going to work on too, is look at like the posts I do like, because there's a reason you like them, because they're so good. And I want to look at those, but I want to make them more me. And it's hard, but I do want to start trying to do that more, just because I
Yeah.
saw that in a different light.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that anybody on this team would say, hey, I don't want you sharing my
Yeah,
post.
no.
Nobody feels that way. Because there's a level of like helping, especially the newbies. Like if you're brand new in this business, that's a way that people can start posting and not be terrified to do it, like get out of their comfort zone. But I think as we grow, especially like once you hit gold and beyond, like you've grown in a place in your business where some of those things we have to start learning to do. So one of the ways that I have started to handle that is, if I see a post that's really fantastic, I screenshot it, I put it in my notes, and then I come back to it in a couple of weeks and reword it or change it up so that it's not like going viral all at the same time. And like you said, everybody's seeing the same post. So I apologize if I have led y'all astray in that area. I think y'all are all great at being authentic. So I just like that for me is a wake up call to just make sure that I am not comparing my posting to somebody else's and not being authentic to who I am. So I hope that helps y'all too.
Absolutely. Yes. Did y'all have any other places in chapter 6 that you saw that you liked? Those 3 chapters were fire. They were so good. I loved every single bit of it.
My toes got all bruised up in those 3.
Yeah, I know. There was a lot of slaps to the face in those chapters. But that's good. They were good, positive slaps, but still slaps.
So we got 7, 8, and 9 next week. And if it's still good, if 5 o'clock is good for y'all still, we'll just keep our time. Is that good for y'all?
Good.
Awesome. All right. Anybody have anything else? Nope. Y'all are so awesome. I love y'all. I'm proud of you. Thank you for being on and making time for this. The growth is coming. All right. Y'all have a great evening and we'll see you soon.